My mission is to silence the stigma and shame about suicide loss, ideation, and mental health. Please, will you join me? Welcome to Suicide Zen Forgiveness, podcast that shares powerful stories of suicide loss, ideation, and mental health in order to break the silence, stigma, and shame. Our mission is to encourage empathy for those experiencing these challenges. Every narrative serves as a beacon of hope, want to touch lives and inspire resilience. Won't you join me in this journey as we share stories to help others to find hope? Please note, this podcast is for educational purposes and may contain triggering content. If you're grieving or experiencing mental health issues, please reach out to your local suicide hotline or mental health office for immediate help. And now, let's start the show. Hi there. I'm so happy to be back once again with you today. And today, we have a great speaker who tackles everyday challenges with guidance through one-on-one parent coaching. It's an area we haven't really talked about, and I'm excited to cover this area because I think we need to begin with our children. I've said that many times. I would like you very soon to welcome DJ Stutz. She provides personalized guidance for parents, sharing insights tailored to your family dynamics, both through one-on-one coaching and engaging guest speaking sessions. Her expertise empowers you to craft effective strategies, enhance communication, and foster a harmonious relationship with your children. Here are some of the strategic parenting skills DJ will help you develop in those one-on-one coaching sessions and through her speaking engagements: effective communication, behavior management, parenting styles, sibling rivalry, emotional regulation. That's what we're going to talk about today. Routine and structure, school-related issues, technology and screen time, sleep challenges, parental self-care, transitioning life stages, coping with special needs, building resilience, and effective co-parenting. With that, I hope you are as excited as I am to talk to our guest, DJ Stutz.
Hey, so good to see you.
It's so good to have you here. I have often said on the podcast that it's unfortunate that we don't explain to children that not all thoughts that zoom through your head are real or truthful, or do they have to be acted upon. And something that someone told me not too long ago is the emotions are even more important. That's what runs everything. So I think it's wonderful that you're here to speak to that, because I think it's imperative that we start talking about these, what up until now have been taboo subjects, in order to bring up healthier, happier, whole children. And with that said, go ahead and take it away. Give us some of your wisdom.
Oh my gosh. Thank you very much. So I'm the oldest of 7. I am mother to 5. Nana, that's what my grandkids call me. Our number 13 is on the way.
Oh my God.
Yep. I am auntie to 70. When you combine my family with my husband's family, he's the youngest of 9. So I have never had a point in my life where I have not had little ones in my life. And then my education, my degree is in early childhood. I'm an early childhood specialist. I taught kindergarten, and I spent about 3 years directing 3 preschools for the school district. But so over 20 years in the classroom. And so I've learned a thing or two.
Wow. That's absolutely incredible. Oh my God. I'm trying to wrap my head around a family that 7.
Yeah.
I
Thanksgiving can be fun.
Oh my god, yeah. I come from a family of 2, as
Oh.
does my husband. Now, my grandparents on all sides came from
Ooh.
families of, yeah, 9 and upwards
Mhm.
because that was the norm. Our My family is the bulk of my family is still in Scotland.
Oh, wow.
They don't do things.
Yeah.
So if we never had that issue, but it just wow. I have one adopted aunt, my
Mhm.
aunt Sheila. Sheila and Leo lived across the hall from us when we first came to Canada, and they have 7 children. Pamela, Paula, Peter, Patricia, Penny Lynn, Phyllis, and Peggy Lee. And I'm the only one that can do that in order.
That is funny. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember my mom would get our names mixed, and there's 5 boys and 2 girls in my family, and gender didn't matter. She'd just get our names mixed up. We have numbers 5 and 6 in the lineup are identical twins, and
Oh,
I can remember my dad getting mad because they'd say the other's name. "Which one are you?" "Uh, I'm Shook." "No, that's Dad." "I'll find out." I remember him saying, "I'll find out."
oh my god, that is funny. Yeah, God rest her soul. My mother had my sister's name was Carolyn,
Mm,
and she was 5 years younger than me,
mhm,
and it got to the point my mother called me Cat Elaine all the time. And by the time we had kids, she would run through the gamut of 5 grandkids. I don't think she could have handled more than that. She was unintention. But
mhm.
yeah,
That
just
that's funny.
wow, that's hard to imagine when you have that many of keeping track of everybody.
Yeah.
Christmas would be fun.
Yeah, yeah, and we tend to because there's so many of us, we used to draw names, so you're only buying 1 present for each
Right.
side of the family, but now it's just we're just down to basically Christmas cards and because 'cause we're all with our own grandkids, our own kids,
Yeah.
and everyone has their own thing, but we love each other, we get together as often as we can, support one another, and for me, that was the joy of being in a large family.
I I have another friend, Len had there were 13 kids in the family. And although it was so far from what I knew, I always used to think when we were over there, they were all so happy. They were as poor as we were, but there was just a lot more of them. But
Yeah,
I think it depends on the family.
it
With
does.
Yeah, if your parents
It
are
does.
making the best of whatever, then
Mhm.
that's how you grow up.
Yeah. We grew up very loyal to each other and as did my husband's family, and but I do know of large families that have fallen apart, which is just really sad to see. There's lots of reasons for
Oh,
that.
yeah. And
Yeah.
small families too.
Yeah.
Sadly, it's not about size.
Mm-mm.
It's just about
It's
issues.
about mental health.
No, yeah, absolutely, and that's
Mhm.
a good segue into where we're gonna go today. As a kindergarten teacher,
Mhm.
you're getting little people,
Mhm.
to me, at the best time to start molding them and teaching them what they need to know.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, and this is gonna be controversial,
Ooh, I love
I
that.
don't think we teach children any of what they need to know
Mhm.
in those
Agreed.
first few years. Come from a British family. I come from Scotland.
Mhm.
In that time, I was born in '55, and by the time I was 3, I could give you my name, my address, my phone number.
Mhm.
I could add small numbers,
Right.
but in Britain, they believed that was the parents' job. They're
Mhm.
your children. You teach them the basics. Or
Mhm.
how else do you function? And that's how I grew up, that's how I brought up my children.
Mhm.
But we came to understand as the kids go to school, it's not the norm.
And I have news. in reality, it is still a parent's job
Yes.
to get that going. And that's what I do with my coaching is I help parents understand what it is that the kids need to know and the best way to introduce that and develop that. And I'll tell you, even more than writing your name or knowing your ABCs or whatever, more important than that is when they come to kindergarten that they have had a great education in social, emotional existence, that they understand about their feelings, that they can sit and listen without having to punch their neighbor, or they can speak up for themselves. They understand kindness. They understand for me, because that starts so early. There are 2-year-olds that I've worked with that are learning those concepts of what is kind. So when I was teaching in kindergarten and you would say, okay, you got to be nice. Well, a lot of these kids don't know what that means. To them, being nice means you're giving me what I want. And if you don't give me what I want, you're not nice. You're mean. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, a sibling, or a fellow student, that's their kind of zone. And so when you've come so honestly, the first year of life is so ridiculously important in how our children develop that sense of safety, that sense of being loved and being cared for. And then as they move along, they're learning how to trust those people around them that have come and met their needs and have made them feel comfortable and all of that, and set boundaries. Yes, set boundaries before they're one. It needs to happen. But so then, as they grow older, those boundaries are going to change because their abilities change. They are, and depending on their opportunities. So I've got one grandson, he's an only child, 6 years old. And then I've got my oldest daughter has five. Everyone else has two or three. And so, what experiences then are we giving them to help them? But I'm planning it's not just, "Oh, this happened." No, I am planning for experiences that are going to give them that education.
Oh my god, that is so good. Just and so different because I'm not one to sugarcoat things. I was an absolute brat as a child because my parents brought me to this country,
Mm,
basically when I was 3. I came
mhm.
on board ship, and rather than
Wow.
bring their furniture and material things,
Mhm.
my parents spent the money to bring my grandmother and my aunt with us
Aw.
because family is what
Mhm,
mattered to us.
mhm,
And that's what I saw, but it meant it was not a cruise ship. It was not a luxury liner. It was a freighter that brought people,
mm,
and it was probably less than wonderful, but the captain didn't spend there weren't a lot of kids on board his ship ever. So
mm.
I got spoiled the whole time I was on board the ship, which was good to me, not so good for
Mhm,
everybody else. When we got here, living with 4 adults
mhm.
meant that I could manipulate at least one of them at any
Yeah,
given moment.
yeah.
And my parents didn't get to go out till I was almost 4 years old. They went out for an evening.
Wow.
I promptly locked myself in a bathroom, and my grandmother and my aunt, among a flood of tears, called the police, and they went and brought my parents home.
Oh, jeez.
Not I was not an easy to deal with child. My sister
Mhm.
came along just before when I was 4 and a half, and she had colic. When they brought her
Oh.
home, they used to have these it's like a little baking kit. It was little packages of cake
Mhm.
mix and little long before there was an easy bake oven. You just got the little cans, right? And they gave it to me, and at the end of the 2nd day, I packaged it back up. and took it to my father and said, "Here, you take this. I will give this back to you, and you take that. It's too loud. I just don't want it." It's my poor sister.
That is
They
funny.
we weren't quite sure what to do about all this. We worked it out. She never forgiven me for that. But it was such a change to my routine. I had these 4 adults waiting on me hand and foot,
Yeah.
and now suddenly there was this little interloper who was getting
Yeah.
all kinds of attention, and
Yeah.
no one had set boundaries in place because, as my dad said it just a couple of years ago, they landed here where they knew no one. I had one aunt and uncle. He didn't know if he'd done the right thing for the family.
Mm,
My aunt was, she had been sick for a long time, so it was terrifying for the adults,
yeah. Oh, can you
and
imagine?
so they were trying to make me as comfortable as I could be, and of course, I ran with.
Yeah. Of course, as kids do. If you give them that opportunity, they're gonna do it. And so if mom and dad aren't on the same page, they're gonna find the one that is more likely to give them their way. When parents are divorced, that's a standard, man. They play. Dad would let me do this. Mom would buy me this. And so they go for the guilt and they go for all that. So as parents, we just need to get over that and be willing to say, yeah, and isn't that lovely that your mom would buy that for you? I hope you remember to tell her thank you, but I'm not getting it for you. So you can stand on your boundaries and you don't need to be a jerk about it. You don't need to scream and yell at them. We did not do this or whatever. But you can say, yeah, that's just not what we do here. So I have two other things that you can choose from, or you can choose to do nothing. The couch is right there. But we're not going beyond that and we're not being rude. And because our kids are learning from that too. And so they'll go to school and they'll learn, oh, this is how you get your way. I'm gonna boss this other child around, or sometimes they'll even try to boss the teacher. I always thought that was hysterical, but you're giving them those opportunities to have to hear no, how to hear this is not our value. These are our values. And then to understand too that there's a lot of love and compassion there, but we're not going to overlook parents who have a whole bedroom just simply dedicated to toys, and that room is packed to the hilt. You're not doing your kids any favors because they come to expect too much, too many things, and without having to earn them, without having to work for them, that there's value in these. They don't take care of things. They break them easily because we'll just get a new one. And so what does that do then as they become older and their expectations are there? And how do they deal with adulthood and marriage and parenting themselves then? Then it's been all about me. Or when mom or dad have swooped in, solved every problem for them. And so now they become adults who can't manage conflict, at least not appropriately.
It's unfortunate that we don't have courses for parents from the get-go.
Mhm.
Here's how to handle your child from
Right.
0 to 6 months, from 6 months to a year. You have to get a license to get a cat or a dog or a bicycle, and
Yeah.
the one thing we're not given much, granted, there used to be what Dr. Spock and his books of
Oh, and
whatever.
his idiocy.
Thank you, yes.
Thank you.
It was
Sorry.
never, yeah, it was never something people could really use,
Right.
but I found over the years, my aunt was very chronically ill,
Mhm.
and we had friends where one of the parents was ill, and I found that we were slightly more aware of boundaries of common courtesy
Mhm.
because we spent a lot of time at hospitals and in waiting rooms and
Mhm.
in crisis mode. And I find that children that have chronically ill parents or have had to go through this
Mhm.
are they are gentler, if that's the right word. They do have a more concern for the welfare of others. And I think
I
that
can
that's a
see
learning.
that. I can also see when there's their own stress and they've been holding in their own stress because they're worried about the other person. And so then all of a sudden it'll explode in all its glory. And it's like, where did that come from? They've been holding this in the whole time. And whether it's a sibling or a parent, that is highly affecting. If you have a sibling that has cancer, all the attention is going as they need to, but then how do you equalize that with what your healthy, typical children are needing? And so it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, "I need this," and putting it out there. Hopefully, you're developing a support network, whether it's your family or maybe a church congregation or a neighborhood, whatever it is that you've got going on around you, that you have someone you can call and say, "Can you take Joey for, a couple hours? I've got to go." Or parents get exhausted and stressed out, and there's the medical bills, there's the concerns about your child or your wife or husband or whatever, whomever it is, that is physically exhausting. And sometimes you just need a chance to whew, take a breath, relax for a few minutes, and not have people climbing all over you. So it's really, and then as they're little, we can teach them how to start developing that kind of a network when
Oh,
they're
yeah.
small, as we're helping them with social skills, with understanding kindness, what is bravery, what is courtesy, how do I find in the hard times? These are things that we need to instill in our little ones when they're tiny. And you're right, so much of the congregation, so much of the community does not get that information of what is developmentally appropriate for this 2-year old, and realizing that not all children are going to progress at the same pace, or some kids are going to do well verbally. Other kids, though, instead of verbal, they're going to be more physical. And so and all of that is okay, but what do I know? How do I support them as they're going through these stages so that they're healthy and confident and independent and tender and kind and all of those things. So I'm really big on, even at 2 years old, I really promote a weekly family meeting. That's something that I really like. And so every week we are, and more than that if you can, but I would say at least weekly. But we're coming together when emotions are normal, are good. We're doing some fun things. Let's play games. Let's do some of the things and then take some time to role play on, how do I ask for that toy that I want without grabbing it and running away with it or knocking over? How how do I manage when I'm really mad about something? How do I manage through that? And so we practice it when everyone's calm so that when it comes up, they're more likely. And the more practice you do, the stronger those inclinations are going to be.
Oh, that is absolutely excellent.
Well, thank you.
And what would you say, just off the cuff, is the percentage of households that do?
Oh gosh, 10, 15% maybe. I think a lot of times, to me and in my world, there's nothing that you will do ever in your whole life that's going to be more important than parenting and what you're teaching and what you're giving. So I've seen people who have this natural inclination. It's like everyone has a talent. Maybe someone's a wonderful pianist or an amazing football player. And I see it. And then there are people who are just amazing parents. Naturally, they get it. But most of us actually do need some of that support and some of that knowledge. And so then in what order are our kids learning things, noticing things, and how can we support them? So I really push, don't worry about what should be. And so I'll have kids or teachers and they'll be like, "Oh, this student isn't doing this yet or that yet." It's okay, but what is he doing?
Yeah.
And then what's the next step? Just go the next step from where they are. You'll never get to where they should be if you don't deal with what
Where
is.
they are. Yeah.
We have to deal with what is where they are first. Non-judgmental, not frustrated about it, but in a loving kindness, let's see where we're going with this. And it'll be amazing the journeys your kids will take you on as they show their own talents, their own interests, their own abilities that came to them naturally. Because I'll tell you what, with 5 kids, 5 very different people,
Yeah.
and they each had their own thing that we needed. This one needed more help with this, and this other one needed help with that. And so it's all okay.
Yeah, that, you and I are very much on the same page there. I always said I worked at an asylum, basically,
Mm.
okay, from the late '60s. From when I was 12, I was a volunteer
Wow.
and saw people at very different levels,
Mhm.
of mental acuity and, uh, physical disabilities, all of that. And to me, even at 12, everyone has a gift. Every single person on this planet has
Absolutely.
a gift. You may not see it right away, and it's probably not one that you have, but that makes it nonetheless, it is still a gift.
Mhm.
And I remember having to tell my kids that, well, specifically my youngest, his sister was incredibly creative,
Mm.
very talented, wrote phenomenal stories, and put on plays with all the animals and her brother and her cousin, and there was always something going on, but she was not great in math. He was
Right.
amazing in math, but really didn't have a lot of imagination, and he couldn't draw worth he was making fun of her. He There was 9 years between them. He was making fun of her for not, yeah, I don't know, not multiplying or something. He was about 7. And I said, "Hey, you, okay? You
Mhm.
can't draw. She doesn't make fun of you for that, okay? That
Yeah.
everybody has a gift. That's just
Mhm.
not hers. Your gifts are yours, but you
Right.
know how many gifts she has, and you don't have them. And there's nothing wrong with that. We don't all wanna be same. If we were all the same, we'd all be, like, boring and beige.
Right. Who would fix our cars? Who
Oh
would
my
teach our
god.
kids? Who would manage water systems? Who would
Who would
We
come up with
need to
the
have that
airplane
variety.
and, like, all of those talents, all of those gifts? I couldn't carry a tune from here to the door in a bucket, okay, but there is so much good music out there,
Mhm.
and I just am madly attached in madly in love with everything that Jelly Roll does right now, because his songs so relate to this podcast
Yeah.
going on, and such beautiful music, and there's tons of it. My mother and father were into Scottish country music and all
Oh,
kinds. My
sure.
father's into pipe band. My mother's favorite was Phil Collins and Madonna.
Oh. Oh, really? I
Yeah.
always did love Phil Collins.
Oh my god, she just absolutely loved him. You've never heard anything till you've heard "Like a Virgin" sung with a heavy Scots accent. My mother had a beautiful voice, unlike me,
Oh,
but
how
a
fun.
very heavy brogue.
Oh, how
And
fun.
all of those, they're all talents that they have that I don't.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's so wonderful that we have this kind of variety. It's what me makes the world go round. The fact that humans are free, I think it's
Mhm.
exciting and it's wonderful to see someone else's gifts, and
right.
be able to enjoy painting and music and poetry and all of those things. Those come from
Mhm.
gifts of others. And
Yeah.
and I think as children, we should be taught to appreciate that as well.
Mhm. Yeah, but they don't if you're not gonna give them the opportunities. And in my mind, and as a public school teacher, I truly believe that the schools are there to support the parents, and that not the other way around. And so knowing what's happening, how can I support if they had a bad dream or if grandma and grandpa are visiting or we got a new puppy or our old dog died, whatever it is, if we're really teaming up and letting our teachers know, so then they are better able because sometimes this child who is just wonderful all the time has a total meltdown and we don't know what we're dealing with. And so that communication piece really goes for your network, for your whoever you have that is on the team with your child. And I think too, validating it's yeah, oh, I can see you're really sad and you need to cry. That's fine. I never would ever tell a child to not cry.
Yeah.
'Cause then
Yeah.
it's just a power struggle. How are you really gonna make that child stop crying without scaring the pants off of them or hurting the relationship somehow, demeaning their feelings? "Oh, it's okay, don't cry. You're fine," whatever, but to say, "Wow, I can see you're really upset and you need to cry. Do you want me to sit with you while you cry? Or do you want to" some kids want to be alone, and so we have a cozy corner that you can go to, and you can cry there and then come let me know when you're done, and then we can work together to try and figure things out.
So
A
nice.
and you're using that kind of a voice, so it's not a super judgy voice, it's not a demeaning voice, it's an interested voice and a validating voice. I can see that you are feeling X or Y. And then helping our kids when they come, to preschool or kindergarten, very often their range of emotional words are, "I'm mad," "I'm happy," "I'm sad," and that's the basics.
Yeah.
And that's why in my book, Roman is bigger. It's a children's book, but he is bigger than mad. He is bigger than happy. He is bigger than silly. And so we're helping him find the words to properly express what he's truly feeling. He's bigger than scared. And then he winds up, yes, no, I am terrified. And giving them the power of that kind of a vocabulary. Vocabulary is key to the just academic development, but it's also key for emotional development too, and
Yes.
understanding I can express how I'm feeling because I have the vocabulary to say, it's more than sad. I'm heartbroken. Oh, this is something different. And
Ab-
so we can, and then our kids become more well versed in identifying what emotions they're feeling, and then they can deal with them and ask for help in a more appropriate and accurate way.
and something that is very important to me because it's not often done is letting children know that all emotions are valid. They're not
Yeah.
good or bad
No.
because anger can motivate you. Like there are no bad. It's simply they are. And something I've told this analogy a million times about
Mhm.
when you watch animals, okay, like the antelopes or gnus or whatever they are on the plains, and they're
Mhm.
all in a herd, or even zebras, they're all in a herd. And there's those on the edge of the herd that are
Mhm.
watching, they're making sure everybody's safe. And one sees a lion or hears or smells the lion and communicates it to everybody, and everybody runs hell for leather.
Mhm.
Okay. And then when they stop, if you watch them, you'll see that every single one of them, from tip of the nose to tip of the tail, they shimmy. It's getting rid of the emotions because
Mm.
emotions are meant to flow and go, and then they
Mm.
can get on with life. Humans
Mhm.
don't do that. we just stuff those emotions down. And what you were saying about saying kid comes in, falls off his bike, mom says, "Oh, there, don't cry. Here's a cookie. Here's a popsicle."
Right. Right.
Your emotions are being supplanted. You're just stuffing them down along with the
Mhm.
food or the treats or whatever, or the there, if that's all somebody gets. But if you allow them to feel those emotions, they only last for 9 seconds,
Yeah.
usually.
And 2, you'll notice that when it if you're at the park and you see a child fall down, before they cry,
They look around.
they look to mom and dad or whomever.
Yeah.
And if mom and dad are like and all upset and come rushing over, then the child's gonna scream and cry. If mom is, "Are you okay?" "Uh-huh." "All right, great. Do you wanna keep playing? Do you need to come sit by me?" And they'll tell you, right? And that's okay, but now we're giving them actions to do
Yeah.
to manage with those emotions, and I'm not feeding into their panic or their sadness or their drama or whatever it is, but asking them. I One of my favorite questions to ask a child, when they come to me with a problem is, "Wow, that's a big deal. What are you gonna do about that?"
Wow.
"I'm
I love
really interested to see how you manage this." "Wow, that's so amazing." So now we're not solving all their problems for them. We're acknowledging that the problem exists. We're acknowledging that it's a challenge. And yet we're giving our child the confidence. I have the confidence in you. If you need help, come talk to me. Wow, I'm really excited to see what you do.
You're empowering that child.
Absolutely.
Wow. It's funny because our youngest grandson, he's
Hmm.
like a little tank. He falls, he broke his arm at the cottage, and he just,
Oh,
"No, that's not right." And that was big. He like, he just rolls with the punches and everything
yeah,
is fine.
yeah.
Slightly older one is more like my side of the family. My mother was my dad used to call her Nervous Nelly,
Ah,
give you an idea. She had to have a sed she had to be sedated to get an eye test. That'll give you how much
wow.
excited, okay?
Yeah.
And it meant anything that happened, there was a big inhale or something, so there was always you were always affecting something, and we lived with one family member who had a multitude of heart attacks over time, was very ill, and when the phone rang, it didn't matter what time of day it was, we would have to make a 5-hour journey right then and there.
Mm,
And I grew up thinking I was really resilient and I was a great person because you could wake me up at any time of night or day and I'd be
right.
pleasant because that's
Hmm.
just me. I have since, in the past 6 months, learned that I grew up in chaos. And when the phone rings, that's why my heart stops to this day.
Mm,
It
wow.
doesn't matter who's calling, but the phone rings and I automatically everything clenches because 'cause I'm waiting for
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
these things that happen when we're children, my parents weren't trying to hurt us.
No.
My aunt, it mortified her that she was ill all the time, and as a teenager, her and I talked very late in my teens, and she said, "Oh my god, I feel so bad because as a teenager, you must have hated." Said, "Yeah, Friday night, I'd do
Oh.
all my chores and run out the door because I wanted to beat the phone." In case that meant, "Oh, never mind your weekend plans."
Yeah. Yeah.
Self-serving, but she totally understood, and it's funny when you look back at these things, what that was all about.
Yeah.
Children find ways to cope
Right.
with
They do. They are amazing, and they will be resilient in their lack of resilience in a way.
yeah,
And so what we want to do is help them to be independent and confident and willing to take risks. And yeah, and I'm talking, so there's the physical risk, so important for our kids to be able to climb and jump and swing and up they go up a tree, and all those are important for their psychological and physical development, but there are also risks that we take socially.
Yeah.
Standing up for someone who's being bullied, making friends with a kid who's maybe is not the most popular kid in the classroom, right? And then there's the emotional risk that we take. It's a huge risk to love somebody, to care, whether it's a dog or a friend or a parent, a sibling, a boyfriend, girlfriend, all of that is risk. And so if we in their early years teach them not to take risks, what are we setting them up for? I w- in kindergarten, I would have parents who would come and love like balancing and being up
Yeah.
on things. Kids got to climb. Give your kids something to climb. They'll do well. But there's those cement blocks that go in between parking places.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
about 3 or 4 inches high. And I would see parents, no, no, don't walk on that. You could fall. You could get hurt. I'm like, what is they might need a band aid.
Yeah.
And even if they do break an arm, kids break their arms all the time. It's sad, and you don't wish that on your child,
No.
but it's not the end of the world.
Mhm. That's the one thing that I will say, the climbing the trees and playing in the ravines and doing all
Mhm,
that, I was a
mhm.
total tomboy as a kid, and I think my dad and my mom came to an understanding that she wasn't gonna panic all the time
Yeah,
because my sister did.
yeah. That's funny.
She
That's
she was
funny.
she was in cotton wool because she started out with colic. She was not well as a baby, and
Mm,
that cosseting, I just can't imagine it. I'm the one that would go try anything, do anything. The biggest roller
right.
coaster, the whatever. Yeah, you know?
Mhm. And you
Mm.
want them to have the executive functioning, to be able to sit and say, "Wow, that is cool." You want them to try things, or you want them to like, "Yeah, no, we're not gonna steal that with our friends." Or,
Yeah,
"No, I'm not gonna take this chance with this drug."
yeah.
Or whatever it is that they can balance good risks and then dangerous risks.
And giving them the autonomy,
Yeah,
make those decisions
yeah.
because you see it. Funny, I think of McDonald's. Okay, our daughter worked at McDonald's. Like,
Mhm.
all her friends worked at
I
McDonald's is
started out at
massive.
McDonald's.
Yeah, massive corporation
Mhm,
that is run by teenagers
mhm,
because they give them the leeway to
mhm.
make those decisions for themselves,
Yeah,
and you see it time and again. If you basically make people feel like they're not smart enough to do anything, they won't stretch themselves, they won't try to grow. You have to allow people to fail
right.
in order for them to
Yeah.
succeed.
Oh, failure is a gift.
Oh, absolutely.
We learn so much more from our failures than we do from our successes.
Absolutely. I have a friend who says that when you fail, you must have a failibration so that you can mark it when the
Yeah,
next time you succeed, which I think is absolutely wonderful.
yeah,
And if we didn't fail, none of us would be walking. If
right.
we just failed once and stopped, would be it. We would
Yeah,
be crawling like worms because
yeah.
how many times do you fall when you're learning to walk?
Or even as they get older, riding a bike or learning to swim, or kids who do gymnastics or soccer or whatever. It's okay to fail. What's not okay is not even trying.
Yes. Yes.
But you get to choose mostly, unless it's one of those dangerous risks, but you get to choose what you're gonna try.
Yeah. Yeah.
So whether
And
it's art or baseball or dance or
absolutely.
whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it doesn't always work out, and that's okay.
Mm,
You can try something and find out that you're not really that interested, but at least trying then you have a better idea of what you do and you don't like, which I think is important too.
Absolutely.
So giving children well-rounded start,
Mhm,
uh, for one, I think it's absolutely wonderful. How do we get that everywhere? How
mhm,
do you get that to every community
mhm,
so that people can take what you know and start I think this is wonderful. I think this would be incredible to start up groups
mhm.
so that I know here in Canada, there are, I don't know what they call them now, but after you have a baby, somebody stops at your house a few days
Oh, so like a
later.
postnatal visit?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they need to make that like a 3 or 6 month course. So it's
Mm,
you have the postnatal visit, and the next one is about what are you teaching your child?
mhm.
Because it really is the job of the parent to lay
Right.
those foundations.
And I think too, it's even more important if you can, surprises happen, but if you can, to get that education before you even get pregnant.
Oh,
So
wow.
I
Yeah.
love working with newlyweds or people thinking about having a baby or someone who's pregnant with a baby, a couple, and talking to
Yeah.
them, okay, what are your values? How am I going to get my baby to sleep? That's a big one. How am I going to ensure that my baby knows that they are loved and safe and all of these things? And then how important is tracking with their eyes? That's a key fundamental thing. So, what are the key things that I need to, because most people don't know about some of those things like tracking, like understanding expression. You can take a brand new baby, a week old, and I've seen these studies, and you have a mom that'll be looking at them deadpan, no expression on their face, and the baby's looking all around, they're not connecting, and then the mom coos and smiles, and the baby zooms right in on them, and then they go back to deadpan, you know,
Yeah.
and the baby's disconnected again. And so there's all these studies that we can help them with. But I don't know. I grew up in LA and I'm old. It was in the 70s. And by virtue of my gender, I had to learn sewing, nutrition, child development, all of these
Oh,
things. And the boys went off to shop. And they learned auto and plumbing and welding and all these things. But those initial courses are really, I think, what got me on my path. I'd been mommying. I was a big sister at 14 months. When I was 10, my mom had the twins, which made 6 kids. And then I was 17 when the last one was born. But and then going through and understanding and saying, "Oh, wow. Wait a minute. This is different. This is interesting." And so it made me my career choice. I know I'm a dinosaur, but my career choice was mommy. And I wanted to learn everything I could about development. Then, after I had my 4 kids and my husband, I wanted to go back to get my teaching degree and do all of that. First class I took was a night class so that I could go out so my husband could be there and be with the kids,
right.
was child psychology class. And I remember coming home to him one night and I'm like, "Russ," and I'm waking him up. "They're normal. They're actually all normal."
And
And so it just went from there, from that first college class and then moving on and understanding how kids develop. And it was an exciting thing. And I wasn't a perfect mom. There were days I wasn't even a good mom. I'll tell you that. But all get along. We all still love each other. We're all there. Are there things that I would change looking back? Absolutely. And I think if anyone looked back and said, "No, I wouldn't change anything I did with my kids," I don't think they're
um,
being honest with themselves.
yeah, I
We
think
are
that's
all
wrong.
imperfect. We are all imperfect and trying our best, but if we can just help and encourage as a society, there's things that you can learn, there are places you can go, and maybe you want a formal class, maybe it's just a podcast or or
Yeah.
having a coach come work with you for a couple of months or whatever, that there's so many options that are available out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think the biggest thing is getting people willing to accept that I need to learn more.
I God, I have so many questions because, first of all, I was married insanely young.
Mhm.
I had a daughter just before my 18th birthday.
Oh, wow.
So a child had a child, and there's
Mhm.
more to that. I was much more of a child than anybody ever knew at the time, seriously. And I had come out of working at this Vito Regional Hospital school, and
Mhm.
I ended up the last 2 or 3 years I was there, we started the first respite program here in Ottawa, and I worked in what was called female admission, doing all the initial testing,
Oh, wow.
yeah, on the patient. So when I had my daughter, I, of course, did all the tests on her. I was driving me and everybody else crazy. It just wasn't required. But part of it was having grown up with such a nervous mom, I
Mhm.
was afraid of my kid. I was
Yeah.
terrified that I might drop.
Mhm.
What if I break
Mm.
this child? What it just and that has a lot to do with my mental state at the time. I lost a friend to suicide at 16 and
Oh,
put me
oh,
in a very bizarre place.
yeah.
So I didn't have the maturity to really handle this well. And it's funny to this day, people have a baby and they, oh, you want to hold the baby? No, absolutely not. I'll just look from here. I don't want to be the one to break your thing.
Oh,
And it's
so
not that I
funny.
don't like children. It's that
Yeah.
they still terrify me. Which I know it seems crazy to people that teach. It's great for playing with children, though, because they have no
Mhm.
idea how old I am. I just seem to fit in with
Right.
whatever group I'm with, so that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see the difference from your perspective. You
Mhm.
came from a bigger family and obviously
Mhm.
not a nervous one. There were more kids. There was 5 years between my sister and I. My
Wow.
husband, there's 16 years between him and his sister, and they only had 2 children. Was not Neither one of us had a super stable upbringing. It
Mhm.
was very
Mhm.
hands off. Mine was very, "I'm here, but I'm terrified."
Yeah.
My mother
Yeah.
of everything, and it is what it is, and I'm certainly not faulting them. My parents loved us very dearly.
Sure.
Father's still around, he's 91. And that's a wonderful thing, but it makes it difficult as an adult. I wanna I wanna see people getting the opportunity
Yeah.
that I didn't
Yeah.
when the
Yeah.
kids. Just for the audience, it's not good to be afraid of your children.
No.
It's really not.
No, but I've seen parents, though, who are emotionally afraid. You just need to tell her, "No." "Oh, she won't let me do that."
Yeah,
"She's
yeah,
5. What are you talking about?" Because, "Well, she'll get mad." "Okay.
and
Yeah, it's okay." So, yeah, I see you're mad, and you can sit and be mad for a while if you want, or you can get over it and we can go do this other thing, or I've gotta go somewhere, and so I don't have the time to sit and, you know, go to the playground or whatever, and they have a fit, and "You're a bad daddy, you're a whatever." It's, "Okay, but we're still leaving. Thank you
yeah,
for that."
and that's another difference is in how children respond now.
Mm,
'Cause I don't know
yes.
about you, but there is no way on earth I would have
Mm-mm.
spoken that way to any adult, much less my parents.
Nope. Nope.
We called everybody Mr. and Mrs.
Mhm.
To this day, I still do.
Yeah,
That's how I was brought up. And
yeah.
and when my daughter and her friends were teenagers, I can remember telling group, "You have to have respect," and they looked at me like I was crazy and said, "Why?"
Yeah.
I thought,
Yeah.
"God, how do I answer that?"
Yeah.
Like, just because they're old, just because they've been alive longer than I didn't have a good answer at that. Okay, there's something wrong with this picture for sure.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And I think a lot of that came from us as adults not wanting to get old. So it was like, "Oh, Mrs. Benyon, that's my mom," or I'm Stutz or whatever, but that's my mom, that's not me.
Yeah,
And in school, it's Mrs. Stutz. They don't although when I was doing the preschool thing, it was Miss DJ, but it wasn't just DJ, it was Miss DJ.
yeah, yeah,
And that's what I've told like, my grandson we had here for this summer, when he'd go play with neighbor kids and whatever, and well, Amber said oh, no, Miss Amber said this,
yeah,
letting letting them see that there is some authority there, and yet it's a fine line because there's enough craziness in the world. They need to be able to also stand up for themselves
yeah,
against an adult and say, "I don't think so.
yeah, yeah,
No, I'm not going there. No, I'm not doing this." So there's a very fine line, but I'll tell you what, if your kids don't have that confidence and that independence and that ability to understand emotions and how they're feeling, and this doesn't feel right to me,
yeah,
then how
yeah,
do I act on that when that doesn't feel right to you?
yeah,
What can I do? And whether it's a friend that's trying to get them to do something they know they shouldn't, or a sibling, it could be
yeah.
extended family member, it could be cousins. Oh, I got in so much trouble with my cousin.
Yeah.
But that's how I met my husband. He was my cousin's best friend. It's just giving them that confidence to know, yes, I respect the adults, but I have those boundaries and
Yes.
that we're firm
Yeah,
on. And I know because we've practiced it, I know how to react.
yeah, yeah. That's the difference too. It's like we as a child in the '60s, we didn't
Yeah.
have it would never occur to anybody. And I don't think there is so much more of a problem. I think we are just more informed of what's out there.
Actually, I do think there's more of a problem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I went through a training. So I used to be the state PTA president for Nevada. We lived in Las Vegas for 20 years. And by virtue of that, I was invited to a seminar done by the police department, and they were training, like, security for casinos and some of these
Right.
and someone said, "Oh, we had to invite that PTA lady." So I'm like, "Well, I'll go." But it was and they were showing just the incidences that have shot up. You've got 60s, 70s up a little bit, and then once you hit the 90s, it just shot
Oh,
right up.
wow.
They said, "We can't even, um, track it
Wow.
anymore." Yeah. And that's another you don't want kids to think that everyone's bad, that
Yeah.
someone's bad,
Yeah.
and yet you also that's that balancing thing. But we talked a lot in that one about the background of child predators and what happened in their early life
Yeah.
and that led them there. And many times it was
Absolutely.
overprotective, meaning parents, but and then also bad meaning parents. Yeah.
I think that brings us to your own gut feeling, your intuition. Teaching children,
Mm.
if you have a
Trust
bad
your gut.
feeling about something, listen to it.
Mhm. Yeah. Absolutely, and that goes back to those weekly meetings and practicing and role
Yeah.
playing and yeah, all those good things.
This has been an absolute wealth of information. DJ, I cannot thank you enough. For the audience, where is the best place to get a hold of you? And I want to be sure and say your book and all of the information about Day will be below the podcast so that you
Yay.
can find her because
Mhm.
you have children or you're going to have children or your kids have children, you need to talk to me.
Oh,
Okay. We are normally we talk about heavier subjects about suicide loss and
mhm.
ideation. But this is mental health. It is about our mental health. And if we start earlier to empower our children, to arm them with the tools they can
Yes.
use
Mhm.
to guard themselves, it's better for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can get me. My website is, and it's going to be changey, but you'll just, if you put this in, once we make the change, it'll shoot you to the new one. But it's www.littleheartsacademyusa.com. And that's my website. My podcast is Imperfect Heroes Insights in Parenting. There's a website for it, just www.imperfectheroespodcast.com. You can find all, I've got over 160 episodes on all kinds of topics with raising kids. You're welcome to go there. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Little or Imperfect Heroes Podcast on both.
That is absolutely perfect. I thank you so much. And I'm going to say, DJ, I think we're going to have you back because I don't think we've covered even half of what we could talk about.
Oh, for sure. I would love to come back. If I can help people understand their kids, feel more confident in their own parenting, and help their children to grow emotionally strong, I'm there. I love it.
And I thank ever so much. To our audience, I say, I bet you got as much as I did at the bit, which is awesome. You would always let us know what you thought and check out everything DJ below. In the meantime, make the very best of your today, every day. I'm Elaine, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for being here for another inspiring episode of Suicide Zen Forgiveness. We appreciate you tuning in. Please subscribe and download on your favorite service and check out SZF's YouTube channel or Facebook community. If you have the chance to leave a 5-star rating or review, it'd be greatly appreciated. Please refer this to a friend you know who may benefit from the hope and inspiration from our guests. Suicide Zen Forgiveness was brought to you by the following sponsors: Truel Social Media, the digital integration specialists. Let them get you rocking page 1 in the search results. Canada's keynote humorist Judy Croon, motivational speaker, comedian, author, and stand-up coach at Second City, Judy has been involved for over a decade in the City Street Outreach Program in Toronto.
The ultimate podcasting hack. This is great for you if you're just starting your podcast or if you've been running it for a while. It's filled with tools, templates, and trainings for starting, growing, and monetizing your podcast. Get access to time-saving systems, strategies for accelerating your process at each step. Find new connections and collaborations in the uplifting podcasting community. I look forward to seeing you there.
Do you have a story to share? Do you know someone you think would be a great guest? Please go to SZF42.com. And for our American listeners, that's SZF42.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again.